Memoirs of a Doctor, Part 8, Chapter 8, Retirement and Testimony. A dream, all a dream that ends in nothing and leaves the sleeper where he lays down. But I wish you to know that you inspired it. Quote unquote, A Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens. On 26 December 2019, I attended a post-Christmas pre-New Year celebration dinner with my cardiologist colleagues in a hotel in Ipoh. The accident. After dinner, when I was leaving the restaurant, I tripped and fell. I cannot quite remember how I fell. I must have momentarily lost consciousness. And when I came to myself, I saw my friends looking at me and calling out to me. I could see and hear them, but I had a strange feeling. I could not feel my body from below the neck, and this was very frightening. It was as though my head was cut off from the rest of my body. I could not move my hands and feet. I had no sensation whatsoever below my neck. At that moment, I realized that I had suffered tetraplegia. I realized that the fall had caused injury to my spinal cord and had resulted in spinal shock. My colleagues called for an ambulance and transferred me to KPJ Ipoh Specialist Hospital. The paramedics were very careful not to move my neck and protected it with a cervical collar. I was immediately taken for an emergency MRI, brain and neck scan, and subsequently admitted to the ICU. The MRI scan showed no head injury, but there was a prolapsed intervertebral disc at the C3, C4 level, causing a 90% compression of the spinal cord, confirming the diagnosis of a prolapsed intervertebral disc with cervical compression at the C3, C4 level. By then, it was already past midnight. The spinal surgery. The next morning, I was taken for a CT scan of the neck to delineate the prolapsed intervertebral disc in more detail. By then, the spinal shock had resolved, but I was still tetraplegic. The spinal surgeon who attended to me advised urgent spinal cord decompression surgery to remove the prolapsed intervertebral disc and to decompress the spinal cord. He explained that this was a delicate and precise operation and indicated that there was a risk of permanent spastic tetraplegia in the event of complications arising during the operation. At 8 p.m. on 27 December 2019, I was wheeled into the operation theater for my operation. I heard the anesthetist in attendance saying that they were giving me pure oxygen and will be putting me to sleep. Rehabilitation and recuperation. The next thing that I remembered was the doctors calling my name, asking me to wake up, saying that the operation was over. When I opened my eyes, I saw the doctors, nurses, paramedics looking at me. When I looked at the clock in the operation theater, it was 11 p.m. I was wheeled back to the ICU. After 8 days in the hospital, I was well enough to be discharged on a wheelchair. After 6 more weeks of outpatient physiotherapy and rehabilitation, I finally recovered and was discharged from the physiotherapy. At that time, the COVID-19 pandemic kicked in and the whole country was under lockdown. It took me another 2 months more before I became fully ambulant. It is now 12 months after my operation, and I'm fully ambulant. Thanks from a grateful heart. I truly want to thank God for saving my life. He rescued me from spinal shock and spastic tetraplegia. God also saw me through the successful spinal surgery and post-operation rehabilitation. My gratitude to all my cardiologist colleagues for calling the ambulance and protecting my neck during the ambulance transfer. I also want to thank my wife, my sons, my daughters-in-law, my sister, my nephew, my relatives, my in-laws, my friends, my colleagues, my pastors, my church members, my school classmates, my university classmates, and my university classmates for their support. And I'm very grateful for all those who prayed for me, cared for me, visited me, cooked meals for me, bought food for me, supported me, and encouraged me and reassured me. And finally, I want to thank the spinal surgeon, the neurosurgeon, the neurologist, the 2 anesthetists, the radiologists, all the staff nurses, nursing aides, paramedical staff, radiographers, physiotherapists, KBJ ISH hospital directors, and all other hospital staffs who attended to me during my hospitalization. Nothing short of a miracle. According to one of my cardiologist friends who was with me during the dinner and who was an eyewitness to the accident, I fell with my head facing downwards, hitting the floor. And I was lifeless for about 2 to 3 minutes. He said that at that moment, he thought that I had died and was very worried for me. Fortunately, I revived spontaneously. According to my eldest son, who is an anesthetist in New Zealand, injuries such as this almost always resulted in permanent tetraplegia. He is convinced that my complete recovery in such a short time is indeed a miracle. Living in the goodness of God. So many people prayed for me through WhatsApp, Messenger, and in person. My wife and my sister were very supportive throughout my hospital stay and post-operation. My in-laws were also very supportive throughout my ordeal. They drove me to various places outside Ipoh during the Chinese New Year of 2020 for food and recreation. and also to cheer me up. I thank God for preserving my life so that I can continue to serve Him. God is good. His love, compassion, mercy, and grace were lavished on me. God's eyes were on me throughout my ordeal. I have experienced such amazing grace. Once I could not walk, but now I could walk. I hope this testimony will be an encouragement for you, as it has been and will continue to be for me. Retired and refired. On 11 January 2020, I celebrated my 68th birthday. It also marked the day I hang up my stethoscope for good and promoted it into a museum piece. After 48 years of practicing medicine, I resigned from my position in Perak Community Specialist Hospital and KPJ Ipoh Specialist Hospital and officially retired from medical practice for good. After retirement, I began serving the Lord in St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, Bangkalan, Ipoh, as a lay preacher, Bible teacher, and worship leader. I also became an author and self-published several books. Retirement gave me the time that I needed to do the things I previously could not do. Over the past 12 months, I have authored 8 books, including Memoirs of a Doctor. I wish to praise my God for His abundant blessings that He has showered upon me and my family. Epilogue. It remains for me to pen an epilogue and to add in a few things that I may have missed out and to tie up the loose ends to draw my memoir to a close. In this memoir, I have attempted to present the key events of my life story, beginning from my birth in 1952 until my retirement in January 2020, covering a span of 68 years. I did not attempt to cover all aspects of my life events, as this is far beyond the scope of this book. Some of the events described may not be 100% accurate due to the long time lapse. As such, and should that ever be the case in any instance, I wish to apologize for any inaccuracies or omission. I remember that during my growing up years in Tanjung Malim, many European missionaries came to evangelize to the town people. These were usually husband and wife teams who came to live in Malaysia and even learned the local Chinese dialects and the Mandarin language. They shared the gospel by using a portable blackboard and chalk to explain the gospel story. After the presentation, they would show us a movie using a portable projector and screen. This usually occurred in the evening after dinner. I like to attend these road shows mainly because of the movies. After my retirement in January 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic, which started in Wuhan, China, escalated to alarming proportions and went global. Malaysia was not spared the agony, and the country was on lockdown since March 2020. At the time of my writing this epilogue,